All right, everybody, happy Thursday. You're probably watching this on a Thursday morning or you're listening on a Thursday morning. We want to welcome you to episode number 26 of the Still City Insider podcast. I'm one of your hosts here, Jeremy Hritz, alongside Matt Cecil, writer for the Still City Insider. And Matt, how you doing today?
Doing great, Jeremy. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. We gave Jim the night off. He's relaxing, but we've got a great show for you today. We're going to spend a lot of time really focusing in on who the Steelers will select at pick number 20 in the first round of the draft. There's a ton of speculation out there that it's going to be a quarterback. Matt and I may have opposing viewpoints about where this team is going to go, so we will get into that. We're also going to talk about what's going to happen in the second round based on where we see the Steelers going in the first round. We're going to talk about strong safety and the fact that there is still not a starter locked up at the position. And also we'll hit on the wide receiver group to round out the show. But let's get started just with some fresh news, Matt. Earlier today, Tyrann Matthieu, there was an interview released where he was talking about this whole free agency process, and he made mention about speaking to Mike Tomlin. I think it was something along the lines of, it's pretty cool when you get to talk to Mike Tomlin. It would be great if they can add a safety alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick, a strong safety like the Honey Badger. What do you make of this connection that Matthieu and Tomlin have made? And do you think there's any possibility that he joins the Pittsburgh Steelers defense?
There's a possibility, but it's hard to say what he's asking and what they're willing to offer. I would guess, that the Steelers pay and say right around 10 million. Is he asking for 12 or 14? So it just depends if it comes together. I mean, that would be a heck of a signing, because then I love what they're doing up the middle. I love Miles Jack and that signing, and him needing a new environment to play in, and so there's upside there, and building from the inside out. Now, if you got two quality safeties, I know everyone's saying, hey, Minkah Fitzpatrick's going to get paid and they can only pay one. But if you can find a way to fit in good football players, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
With, being able to sign a Trubisky right now and pay a guy 7 to 10 million, and you're not paying Carson Wentz 27 million or a Garoppolo 30 million or a Cousins 35 million. Now you can fill your roster. And so I think there's capability of doing that, maybe on a 2-year deal. He's 29 years old. He's going to be 30. And, Kevin Colbert said this week, he likes to sign guys that are going into their second contract right around 25, 26 years old. And you saw that age with just about everybody they signed. So they could go outside the box there. It's just going to be interesting. Wait and see. Both you and I like, Terrell Edmonds coming back, and we've heard crickets on that. So
yeah. I mean, if they did sign the Badger, that would automatically make that safety tandem the best in the league. There's no question about it. And just the splash possibilities there with Minkah and Matthieu. It would be a significant upgrade, but that is a lot of capital to tie up in two safeties. And then you also look at the age, 30 years, which it's not that old in real life.
No.
In the football world, it seems like they're looking to build a roster that, is on the younger side. And I'm really surprised that there hasn't been something solidified here at strong safety. I'm like you, I'd like to see Edmonds get a deal done, but I think the longer this goes on, I don't see him returning.
The more unlikely it is.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't understand why, he's not getting at least $5 million a year, something comparable to a J-Ron Curse, or, some of the guys out there that got $5 million playing, starting strong safety deals out there. And he's always healthy. He's gotten better every year, maybe not in the way that people want in terms of star impact or big play impact, but he's solid.
Yeah.
And, he's reliable. He's fast, and he's physical. So it's a little surprising, but we don't know what he's asking for either. But
he had his best season last year, And, you hate to see the team invest all their resources in a player just to let him go, and then he signs elsewhere.
Right.
I want to see them hold on to him, because you mentioned something too. He does stay healthy. His availability is always great.
Mhm.
I
But
don't
there's
think you
something
can.
they're seeing too in the film. I mean, he's not getting a job anywhere else.
Right. Right.
So, we only have this fraction of the story, and our opinion. I always like to say it's subjective. I
Right.
mean, I'm not pouring over film, um, but what I see, I try to give the best opinion I can, and I just think he's been a solid football player
Yeah.
for them, especially the last year. So it'd be great to give him back. If not, and you hear rumors of other players. And, I think they're pretty comfortable with finding somebody comparable in terms of production and talent, and so they're being patient with it.
Yeah.
They brought back Chooks, and he got 10 million a year. That's fine. I mean, he's got upside in terms of he's 24, 25 years old. He takes care of his body. He's in good shape, and maybe the system they're now going to run, which I'm pretty excited about, he fits better.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me is like, well, you pay him 10. How come we can't pay Terrell Edmonds half of that?
Right. Agreed. Kind of shifting gears a bit, Malik Willis has been rumored to the Steelers over the hills and through the woods and then back again. And last week there was a report that Todd McShay was talking to the Liberty head coach, Hugh Freeze, and made mention that Mike Tomlin made the comment that they'd like to select Willis, but they don't think he's going to be available there at pick 20. Now, you can read into that Tomlin is being truthful. They're not going to reveal their full draft strategy and approach there. But there's been a lot of talk that the team potentially could move up to make a move for Willis. Hearing that comment, do you think the team is going to stand pat at 20? Or do you think if they really do like one of these QBs, they will trade up in the first round?
I'd be shocked if they moved up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be a poor choice on their part, just because they don't really have the draft capital right now. They're not going to get comp picks next year based off of who they signed and who they lost. They already gave up a couple picks, in the Devin Bush deal, and that hasn't really worked out yet. Plus, I mean, the kid's 6 foot tall. He's just over 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not, I've heard the Stephen McNair comparisons, but he's not 6'3".
Mm-hmm.
He'll buy time, and he's physical, and, he can make plays, and he's got a big arm, but he's still 6 foot tall. He still took 51 sacks. I listened to Chris Sims talk about him, and a lot of times he's passing up on first reads and he's not seeing the field. And to me, that's a huge red flag.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like, the system that they're going to use, hopefully they get under center, they're running bootlegs. They're going to take advantage of athleticism at the quarterback position. But this draft is not the one to be trading up, because there's a high ceiling possibly with him, but there's a low floor. And he's, again, like, he's not 6'3".
Mm-hmm.
So that ceiling, how high is it? Because when it's third down, it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, and you got to go into a 4-minute drill, how well is he seeing the field?
Yeah.
He's already struggling with that a little bit in college, and now he's got to see over the offense and the defensive fronts. I'm not comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not comfortable with him at 20, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not like to see him move up for him. There's high upside there, but like we talked about in the previous podcast, most of these quarterbacks are flaming out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it smoke screen or not? We'll find out, on draft day in the first round. But I'm hoping that it is. Not that he can't. There's things I like about him,
Mm-hmm.
But there's just, I think a lot of these guys are being pushed up.
Mm-hmm.
In the first round, and there's a lot of talk, and I think it's fairly accurate. Just looking over some video that I do, not that I pour over it, like that I have time to do that, but just looking for certain things that I see, I think these guys are getting pushed up too high. And yeah, he's got the arm talent. He can roll out and chuck it 67 yards down the field out of money in a pro day. but can you read the defense, and can you see the field, and do you have pocket presence and all those things that you're going to need? There's question marks there.
Yeah. And I'll get into more of my take when we start talking about pick 20, the meat here, and I'll kind of give my side there. But that's great insight, and those are all great points, and definitely something that the Steelers are probably, commiserating through right now as they figure out which direction they're going to go. And then we'll close up with the last piece, the latest Steelers news. After a ferocious start to free agency and the numerous signings that occurred, it's been a bit quiet recently. And I think Steelers Nation was a bit spoiled there with all those signings. But the team did sign Jannard Avery earlier this week, guy who could play both inside and outside backer. Any take on what he can add to this team in 2022?
It's hard to say. I mean, he started 12 games for the Eagles last year. He provides depth at both inside and outside linebacker. And so, I liked him going into the draft, and they took Samuels, the running back from NC State, Michigan, or the Steelers did in the 5th round. And, but Avery was a kid that I had my eye on. He's running 4.59, 251 pounds, 6'1", thick, great change of direction numbers, productive kid. And then I guess he had some medical issues, but I just think it's a good pickup for them. I think it might be better than, let's say, Spillane behind, Miles Jack. So, and then you can use them on the outside. And so you can use them as a little bit of a chess piece, move them around, which, they like to do and Tomlin likes to do. So smart signing, 1-year deal, just providing depth and competition.
Yeah. And I think, at least from my perspective, I think that eliminates the need to select an inside backer, at least early in the draft, maybe in the later rounds. But you took a guy like Buddy Johnson last year in the 4th round. I think they're a position that was a bit uncertain and shaky. We still don't know what's going to happen with Devin Bush, a year removed from the, I guess 2 years removed from the tear, but it feels a little bit more stable with Miles Jack and now the signing of Avery.
I don't think they're going to address inside linebacker in the first 4 rounds. I think. Yeah. Possibly later, like you said. Yeah.
Right. So we've agreed up until this point, but now we're going to get to the part of the show where we're going to disagree. And that's talking about pick 20. And I think we both have different perspectives on where we see the team going. So we thought it'd be a fun exercise Matt's going to share where he sees the team going with pick 20. I'm going to share where I see the team going, and we're going to have a bit of lively banter here as we talk through the Steelers' possible first round selection. So Matt, if you want to kick it off.
All right. So I'm gonna start with putting a little pressure on you right here.
Uh-oh.
No, this is fun. 2013, when the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, can you tell me the 3 receivers that they had?
Oh gosh. I remember Jeremy Stevens at tight end.
That was back in the day. You're thinking 2005.
2005.
2015.
So, you're talking 2015. Oh, geez.
Where they were 1 yard away from possible dynasty or back-to-back.
Was Lockett one of them?
No.
I don't know that was a Brady Super Bowl, so I couldn't watch it.
You were what?
I couldn't watch the Brady Super Bowl, man.
I got you. Yeah. I can totally relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
But you had Doug Baldwin,
okay,
Golden Tate, and Jermaine Kearse, and not studs, and you win 43-8. And they played a certain way. They get down, they're coming downhill. Mm-hmm. They're running play action, and they're winning with the front 7.
Yeah.
So I want to win with the front 7. I want to come downhill. I want to run play action. And I think Trubisky can do that. Mm-hmm. I think he can play the Ryan Tannehill game. And now Tannehill had 3 interceptions against Cincinnati. And we don't want that. But in 2 playoff games for Trubisky, he's yet to turn the ball over. And that's something that Roethlisberger can have a hard time saying. There's been plenty of, playoff games that he didn't protect the ball too well. And when he did, they won, and so I would say also for anybody to go back on YouTube and take a look at the 2020 Week 15 game, Trubisky against Chicago, because the last several games of the year, that's where Matt Nagy got out of his own way and said, all right, we're going to get under center. We're going to run play action. We're going to run these bootlegs. And he had a lot of success. And in that game, they win 33-27. He goes 15-21 for 205 yards, almost 10 yards of pass attempt. They hand it to their back 35 times. And this is how you win. This is how you win with him. Too many times he was standing in the gun, spreading it out, playing a game that doesn't suit his style. And you don't have to win that way. I don't know why these coaches think that you have to throw 60% of the time and you have to spread it out. You still got to win on third down. But, man, you can get under center. And I love the direction I think Canada's taken them, inside, outside zone. These athletic offensive linemen they've brought in through free agency. We both like Mason Cole, Daniels. These guys are going to be able to pull. They're going to be able to run zone. They're going to be able to run a little pin and pull, and do the things that are going to make them versatile to be able to run the ball up front and disguise play action. And with a guy who can move like that, there's a lot of potential there. And the thing that I'm looking at right now, this is a huge opportunity for them, is that you see what you have in him for a year. You put the line in place. You got Najee. Najee needs a compliment that if Najee goes down, that you have somebody similar to him. And you're running that play action game, and you're building a front seven that's dominant. Because these Super Bowl champions that were all, I don't care if they had the great defenses. It didn't matter if it was cover 2, press bail, cover 3, like Seattle had, or the Tampa 2. Go down the line and all these great defenses. They all had great front fours, and they all had great front sevens. And the Steelers are one more piece on that defensive line away. You need to get Steph Tuitt back. We don't know who he's going to give you because he's sat out a year, and he could be the old Steph Tuitt. And now if you get let's say like a Devontae Wyatt or a Travis Jones at the nose coming in, stuffing the run. Now that we're collapsing the pocket and we're letting TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith get home, I like my chances against anybody. I love what they did on the outside, getting smart corners, $4 million deals. Witherspoon's a smart dude. Levi Wallace, there's no quitting that kid. He's just a tough football player, smart football player. So is Cam Sutton. And you unleash the front seven, and that could be a top 3 defense. If that D-line is dominant again, if we have another Javon Hargrave type to go with, hopefully Tuitt returning and Cam. So I'm looking at that, and that's where I'm thinking this team has the potential to do it, and they have to commit to running the ball. We'll see if Mike Tomlin does it, because Seattle, when they won almost 2 back-to-back, the second year they lost it, they had 3 of their 5 starting, defensive backs out. It's 3rd and 13 twice. Brady converts it. That game is 24-14. It should be over. And your leading receiver was Doug Baldwin. You didn't have Golden Tate the second year. Yeah. Your third receiver was Luke Wilson, and you were this close away to being a back-to-back Super Bowl title winner, running it over 50% of the time. Run the ball, run the play action, have a dominant defense. And then now, guess what? If Trubisky works out, I still don't pay him. I keep him at $20 million because I'm not paying these dudes $45 million and $50 million a year. And then I'm going to draft a guy the next year, and I got 5 years where I don't have to pay a quarterback top dollar, and I can keep a deep roster with a top 3 defense. And I get downhill with Najee, and I'm running play action. I can take an average quarterback. I like my chances. I think the quarterback position is a little bit overvalued. I'm not saying it's not important, but it is a team game. And I just see it, and I think there's potential there. I think he's a great dude. All his teammates love him. He's going to be the first guy in, the last one to leave, and so is Mason Rudolph, but that's going to inspire the locker room. And those guys, when you're running downhill and you got a quarterback that you love, those guys are going to be playing physical and going to be playing hard. I think there's more potential here than what the outside media likes to talk about with Trubisky. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 10, but I'm saying give it a year, because next year the quarterback class is supposed to be better. And if he flames out, well, great, because now you're picking in the top 15 probably anyway. So, but you at least have an opportunity to see it, because I've looked at those games that he's played, and he can get it done the way Tannehill and Garoppolo gets it done. Just put him under center and run it 50% of the time, and he's got the legs. And now it's 3rd and 1. You do a little RPO to Najee, and you're converting down at the goal line. You're converting on short yardage, and I see the potential of it, and that's why I'm excited about it. And I don't want to give up on it. I want to give it a year and see what it's capable of.
Yeah.
And then build that dominant defense.
So at 20, you're saying defensive line.
Yeah.
So, and who were and you mentioned some of the Georgia guys, but if you just want to go back through who would be maybe the top D lineman you would take there that you think would be available, and who would be your second?
It's hard to say, because here's what I trust Tomlin in this situation. I trust him defensively. I don't really trust his judgment offensively. I haven't really felt comfortable with the offense since he's really been there in some form or fashion. It's just doesn't look right, and it just doesn't have that championship feel to it, and there's no rhythm to it. But defensively, he knows what he's doing. If it's Devontae Wyatt, I'm fine with that, because Alu, he's a similar dude. He's 6'2", 295. It's not the big 330-pound nose tackle anymore. They're lining them up in the one gap, and they're penetrating. They're not playing zero technique with Casey Hampton style necessarily anymore. But man, Travis Jones really intrigues me. I mean, he's 6'4.5", 328 pounds, 325 pounds. It's not just the 4.92 and the arm length that's similar, and I wrote about it, similar to Cam Hayward, and everything. His numbers, from his hand size to his arm length to his 4.92 40, similar to Cam Hayward. Great kid. They say he has a motor on him that's incredible. Arthur Moats was comparing him to Aaron Donald. I don't know about that, but he was just talking about his arm movement, because he's not really a pass rusher yet. But God, when you are that big and can move that well, and he's agile and he hustles his ass off, I like somebody like him in round 1, maybe as a sleeper. Jeremiah says he's got him going at 27. I saw one mock having him going 14 to the Ravens. You just never know. I think they could be smoke screening and liking any of these 3 defensive linemen, because they haven't signed one in free agency. They brought back the kid from Auburn, and he's 6'3", 304, and it's the exact same size as Wyatt. But I don't think they're relying on a kid that they signed off the street that, they still were 32nd in the league in stopping the run. I like the dimension of a bigger body like a Jones or like a Davis, but I don't know how well Tomlin knows how well that fits their defense and what he's looking for. And if he picks Devontae Wyatt, I trust that. But I would love a kid like Jones, because I think that would work too. And he can be a unicorn where you could put him at end. He doesn't have to be a nose tackle his whole career, but he's showing you the athletic ability that he can play in sub package. And I don't need him to get 10 sacks.
Right.
I just need him to collapse the pocket, stop the run, and let TJ get home.
Yeah.
And let Highsmith get home.
Yeah.
And I just see tremendous potential. And if you get a stud D lineman, that this thing is going to be a top 3 defense again quickly. With the guys that they got in the middle now.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great argument. I mean, how I definitely see the merits there. So yeah. I guess I'll give my perspective here.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Yeah. So I definitely believe that we have to give Trubisky a shot to see what he is capable of doing. I'm rooting for the guy. I mean, I'm hoping that it's an open competition between he and Mason, but I think the writing's on the wall that this is Trubisky's show. And I do feel if it's more of a conservative game plan, like you said, where they're doing the rollouts, they're doing the play action, they're emphasizing the running game, that's going to put him in the best position to succeed. You can't have him drop back 50, 60 times. That's
No.
playing to his strengths. On top of that, if your defense is built in a way to where they're an elite unit, then those both units play off each other, because ball control, offense, you're controlling the clock. You're not having your defense out there on the field to get fatigued. So it makes sense. There's a lot of synergy there.
Right.
I guess my concern with selecting a defensive lineman that early, especially if it's going to be someone at the nose, is just the percentage of time that they're actually on the field. How often do they play in that base defense, unless they're going to use the defensive tackle in some type of sub package, which I would expect the most creative Steelers defense this year of all years, with the new D coordinator, with Flores on board.
Now he can't be just strictly a nose tackle. He's got to be a guy that can play in sub package, and even maybe convert over the end the following year, assuming that Tuitt leaves. He's got a year left of his contract, and we don't even know if he's coming back this year.
Right.
And if he does come back, how effective is he going to be? Because I feel for the guy, but psychologically, how well is he going to prepare during the off season to be able to be ready? These are all unknowns, and so I think they I don't want to reach, but I think there's guys there that Devontae Wyatt, 304, 477 with a 162 10-yard get off. And you put him in, he could do the Alu thing, but also maybe play an end, and he's definitely going to be able to play in sub package. I have questions with him. There's been some character reports, and I'm always a guy on leaders, bringing in leaders and hard workers, and not to say that he isn't. Maybe he's grown up. I don't know. I don't have all the information. I do know that Jones is a phenomenal kid, and that makes, he checks a lot of boxes except for being at Connecticut, So
I mean, I definitely can see that. But I guess the way that I would approach pick 20 is, I definitely feel that there's a need at the defensive line, but there are so many unknown variables right now, and I'm holding out hope, which is a terrible idea, that Tuitt does return and he's back out there on the field. You have a Lulu back. I think Montravius Adams being re-signed, having time to develop, being in the system, learn the defense, get acclimated. Then I think, and then Loudermilk has is it Loudermilk? Loudermilk. Another year. And I think they can add a guy, maybe
Wormley too.
Wormley, but I think they can add a big-bodied nose like Neil Farrell out of LSU, maybe in the 3rd or 4th round. They could do what you're talking about, but you're not expending your 1st round pick on the guy, and he's not going to be on the field that much. If you're drafting that player in the 3rd or 4th round, I think that makes more sense. And to me, the way I'm looking at this, and Ed Bouchette wrote about this today, and I'm not stealing this idea because I have talked about this previously, but in terms of a quarterback, if it doesn't work out with Trubisky this year, Rudolph's only signed through this year, and you have Dwayne Haskins, which, I mean, we don't know what he is yet, but I think we do know what he is, but we don't want to admit it yet in Steelers Nation. But if there is a guy that this organization believes in, and he's there at pick 20, I wouldn't trade up. Then you take him. And I don't think that quarterback starts this year. This is Trubisky's year. And then, let's say that the bottom falls out by midseason, then you could go to your younger guy. But in all reality, I think he's this player, whoever it is, whether it's Pickett, it's Willis, or it's Ritter, they're going to need to sit a year. You talked about Willis just being able to read the field. He's looking at his first read, and then he's panicking. And, so I think that they're going to need to give, all these quarterbacks are going to need time to develop in a system. Trubisky buys them that year, then you're not losing a year to wait for a quarterback to develop. So if they drafted next year, they're going to have to wait, because I don't think this is an organization that's going to throw a quarterback into the fire. Some might say, well, that's what happened with Ben Roethlisberger. That only happened out of necessity. Because Maddox got hurt. But either way, if it's going to make this team better, and if Trubisky can be that player that you're speaking of, and you can have that elite defensive unit, however they get it done and get the win. But I think for me, at the end of the day, which player or which position has the most influence and impact on the team. To me, it's quarterback, because they're touching the ball every play. Like I said, it won't be this year. And again, it goes back to, if their guy is there, then I think that has to be their selection.
Sure. No, I understand that completely. Yeah. And I just look at these guys though, and I say, well, who isn't already a game manager? You look at the size or the arm talent. And I think whether they're a 4 or 5 year guy, you're going to be asking them likely to do the same, other than Malik Willis, who has the higher upside of anybody, but you're going to have to ask them to do the same things that you're going to ask a Trubisky. And if you threw a young Mitch Trubisky into this draft, you know, most of the experts out there say that he would be at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's 26, 27 years old. He's had that much more development. I think guys, we give up on guys too easily.
Yeah.
Matt Nagy was awful.
Yeah.
What was going on over there. That's why I was interested in him before, because, you know, you take somebody like Jameis Winston, who played for Sean Payton, or you take somebody like Mariota, who played for Arthur Smith. And I already know they had high upside systems and coordinators. And this guy didn't. And, you know, they sung his praises with the Bills. And I think there's meat on that bone there that I want to see.
Yeah.
And I want to put a unit around him. And maybe they draft a quarterback and they go 13-4, and then you got a good problem on your hands. And then maybe you got a draft capital trade piece there. But I just, looking at some of the games that he's played, and yeah, he's had some bad turnovers, but I also seen Warren Moon throw 5 interceptions against the Steelers in Cowher's opening game, and he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
You know, like it seems back in the day, guys had a little bit more leeway on making mistakes, especially when they were younger, than guys do today. It's like either you get it done in the first 2 years, or you're done. And I don't think that's smart business. Guys get better and better, especially guys that work hard like him and are athletes.
Right.
And there's things I see that he tucks the ball a little bit too early, but I'm just intrigued by it, especially from like the salary cap standpoint.
Yeah.
Of keeping a team around.
Right. And I will say this too. I do feel like teams give up on quarterbacks too early. My thing with quarterbacks in the draft is the draft is already an inexact science. And if you go back and look historically, quarterbacks taken in the first round, I don't put any faith or trust in the evaluations of these quarterbacks and their draft profiles to say, well, this guy's ceiling's cat. I'm not referring to your analysis here, but a lot of the criticisms that you hear of quarterbacks coming out in the draft, because for every player that is projected to be outstanding, like Joe Burrow, there is your corresponding Ryan Leaf. And I know that's going back. Yeah. I think it's more about the organization, the coaching staff, the leadership, the personnel.
Absolutely.
I think if you bring a player in and you have an organization like the Steelers who understands it and gets it and knows how to surround the player and the player is a fit, they have a better chance to succeed. Let's say, for instance, that Trubisky was drafted by the Steelers.
Right.
Got to sit behind Ben, had that time to develop, had the resources and the support. You know, what type of career would he have in this type of organization? Because let's be honest, Jim, no offense, I know you're from Chicago.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he'll be watching this. But the Bears have not been a great organization.
No, and look, I'm in the Detroit area. Probably one of the reasons why I had a Steelers shirt on my 4th birthday and been a Steelers fan my whole life is it's the worst organization in professional football, the Detroit Lions. And what would have happened to Joe Montana if he got drafted by the Detroit Lions? He got drafted by Bill Walsh and the San Francisco 49ers and put into an ideal situation. And I think situation is so important for guys. Mm-hmm. I do think what Canada wants to do, which is very similar to Kyle Shanahan, and I've been beating that drum for years, to get under center and run play action in a way that you can disguise and you don't know the difference between whether it's a run or a pass, and support the quarterback. See, I've never understood why these organizations feel like they got to, once they pay the guy or they get the elite guy, why they got to stand back there and put all the pressure on them. Troy Aikman won 3 Super Bowls because they didn't change the formula.
Mhm.
You know, they still went through the run first and play action, and he was good with that. His ego didn't get in the way, like Ben's did. You know, Ben wanted to be the man. He wanted to be Brady and Manning. And, you know, 3 yards in a cloud of dust is not there anymore. Even though he went 26-4 his first 2 years, he kept trying to tug away from that and get back to spreading it out. And it wasn't Steeler football.
Yeah.
You see similar. I bring up Seattle because once they paid Russell Wilson and they lost their defense and they put more on him, they were never close. They were pretenders too.
Yeah.
And you just see it. You see Garoppolo run it 50% of the time, and he's within a hair of winning a Super Bowl. Yeah, they say, well, he was average, but their right guard was getting killed by Chris Jones. And, you know, if he wasn't, maybe they win that Super Bowl. It's just there. You know, I think it's there with a solid guy more than we want to acknowledge. The media acknowledges. You don't have to have the top 5 guy.
Right.
Well, yeah, we could talk quarterbacks all night. We might as well.
I'm telling you, this guy.
we might as well cut it off there. We're already over our desired time limit. We have to do like a round 2.
I know. And the audience didn't see the 10-minute conversation that happened before we got on here. We could go for days. We could go for days. It'd be a marathon, but
it would be.
Yeah, Matt, we'll have to get back on here again soon. And just, I guess, real fast to kind of closing thoughts. You know, if you are going D-line in the first round, what position are you targeting second round or player?
I mean, it's pretty obvious looking at the roster that wide receivers got a huge hole. But I mean, I want to go 2 tight ends, and Trubisky never had a Claypool and a Deontay Johnson. He had Allen Robinson and a bunch of nobodies.
Yeah.
And, you know, Anthony Miller was out there, and that was his number 2 or 3 at times. I wouldn't mind if they took another player at another position, maybe a Jalen Petrie at safety, because he's kind of like a Tyrann Matthieu, Jordan Whitehead type, who's, you know, a cover slot guy, but also is a strong safety, play in the box type football player. You know, so that's intriguing if they don't sign a strong safety. But you're looking at receivers, and oh man, I mean, there's plenty of guys to like. If somebody were to slip down, I'll just give a name. I don't think he'll be there, but the Christian Watson kid.
Oh man, I got him in my latest mock.
Oh, I watch him run routes. You know, at 6'4", and the quickness and the speed, and he likes to block. I don't think he'll be there, but good Lord.
Yeah.
You know,
he's only scratched the surface of what he's capable of too.
Right. You know, Alec Pierce is intriguing. You know, I've been listening to Chris Sims a little bit. I appreciate, doesn't mean I agree with everything. He has him as his 3rd receiver. Yeah, I understand why they do the Jordan Nelson comparisons. Jordy Nelson, I don't see necessarily he does get deep, and field stretcher is nice. I think they want more speed at the position, but you know, he's not really a great separator at 6'3" in and out of his routes like I see with Watson. And so I look at, you know, I'm not overly intrigued with guys like Sky Moore. It's 5'10", 195. He's a slot, and I think they might target a slot. And he runs 4.41. It doesn't really seem like that on tape, you know, but I think there is a little bit of a Debo effect where he's a little bit thicker, even though he's smaller. You can run those jet sweeps that they want to run, that misdirection. You get him on the move, and now he can break some tackles, and he's a football player, not just a receiver. I like football players. You know, Hines Ward should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
As a football player. Antonio Brown is a wide receiver. And there's wide receivers that get stats, and there's wide receivers that win football games. And so I don't know if I'm overly enamored with a Sky Moore. I like a Khalil Shakir, and we don't even need to get to round 3, but a great kid. You know, so maybe if they don't address it, there's opportunity to in round 3, and I'd have no problem with that. But those are some names I'm looking at, and it's hard to say how it's going to break in round 2. But I think wide receiver would be the most obvious if they don't take one in round 1. But Chris Olave in round 1, kind of reminds me of Justin Jefferson. It's like, whoa, this dude runs 4.39. I thought he was just a route runner, kind of like Justin Jefferson running 4.42. And you think he's just a guy that knows how to run routes and catch the ball in traffic. And, so that might be the case. We might both be off on D-line and quarterback. It might be wide receiver in round 1, which I kind of brought that Seattle Seahawks up earlier because you don't need to.
Yeah.
If you're committing to the run like they say that they are, then do it, and let's go D-line, let's go O-line, let's address wide receiver in 2 or 3. Let's get back to physical Steeler football in the modern day version, not running at 60% of the time, but half the time, and laying that foundation that's going to set up the play action. You'll still be able to score 30 if you do it right.
Right.
So,
Well, listeners, you heard it here first. Matt Cecil predicting a return to old school Steelers football, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And
no way, no. In the modern version.
The modern version.
Modern Tennessee Titans type, San Francisco. Yeah.
Hey, sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up. I'm in. Well, hey, Matt, it's always great talking Steelers football with you. Audience, like I said, we could keep going, but we'll be back probably here in a few weeks, Matt and I, with another show. Probably more news will pop off between now and then, so I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. Matt, I don't know if you have any social media that you want to share out where people can connect with you yet?
Not yet. I got some things in the works.
Okay.
To serve people and help people out, with the training and certain things that I do. So.
All right. I was just putting it out there to make sure we have that covered, but you can check out Matt's work on the Steel City Insider. Check out Jim's work on Steel City Insider. You can follow Jim at Jim Wexel on Twitter. You can check out my work at thesteelstudy.com and give me a follow on Twitter, at Steel Study. And we will see you next time on the Steel City Insider podcast. Take care, everyone.